is the idea that we're part of, because you believe in protecting somebody from being forced, like in New Mexico or in Colorado, that somehow you're part of the idiot brigade of the Westboro Baptist Church and the KKK or the Black Panthers. I mean, where are we, Professor?
Well, you're talking about the legislation in Arizona to try and protect people from not having to do business that requires them to go contrary to their religious beliefs.
Right, which is 1993's law. Yeah.
Exactly. The thing is what's happening with gay marriage and everything that follows from that. That's identity grievance politics. Right. Mm-hmm. That's a well-placed interest group, lobbying group that seeks out these sorts of events as grievance, because the grievance is what empowers them. And that's why their argument is fundamentally incoherent. Let me give you an example. So let's say you have a gay baker, right? Mm-hmm. And you have a Klansman come in who's going to get married, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, I want a wedding cake. And are you telling me the gay baker does not have a right to say, you know what, I'm not going to do business with you because you believe in things that I don't endorse? Now, with these same people hounding the bakers and florists, would they be consistent and say, absolutely, you have the right to do that? Right? You don't have to do something that violates a core belief. Of course they wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Of course they wouldn't. They would stand up and champion this brave baker or florist who is abiding by his principles. See, this is what you get with identity politics. Identity politics is about what's good for my group, right? Yes. It's not about a principle that applies to everybody evenly. It's about what at this moment benefits my group. When it benefits my group, I believe in it. When it doesn't, if it benefits my enemy, then I don't believe in it. And they get away with it. Nobody calls them on it, because as soon as you do, you're a homophobe, you're a racist, you're a sexist, or, they start those sorts of attacks. So, it's so institutionalized now with terrible laws like hate speech laws and all this other and discrimination laws, that they have this huge advantage over people. And unless it's litigated and it ends up in the Supreme Court, and by some miracle the Supreme Court does the right thing, and reaffirms the First Amendment protection of religious speech, then people are just going to have to live with it.
It's amazing, because you address part of this in your latest article, and we're going to forego the class warfare of President Obama making the comment, you didn't build that or spread the wealth around, as you put in your article. But you said this is the key part of one of the pieces parts of the article I really enjoyed. Class warfare rhetoric is not the problem we should focus on, nor should we complain about our divisive politics and polarization. Such political angst bespeaks a misunderstanding of the constitutional order, which assumed such divisive factional politics to be unavoidable given human nature, and sought only to keep a minority from tyrannizing a majority, or a majority from tyrannizing a minority. What we call gridlock was the constitutional version of the medical maxim, first do no harm. Please expound upon that, because that was brilliant. We could leave it as is, but we've got a couple minutes left, and I would love for you to expound upon that.
Well, if you go back and if you read the constitutional debate, and you read the Federalist Papers and the state ratifying convention debates, it becomes very clear. They did not expect a diverse country, as it was even then, let alone as it is now, for everybody to be united and to all have the same interests and all have the same aims. They knew that people were going to have different aims, different what Madison called passions and interests, and that those would cause people to try to amass as much power as possible at the expense of others. So what they said is, what we want to do at the federal level At the federal level, we want to make a system where those will counter each other. As Madison said, ambition will counter ambition. They will check each other. And as long as that happens, then no one group can come to dominate at the expense of the others. But what's happened is, losing sight of that, we've grown the federal government to these enormous size and reach and power, and it becomes hijacked by one group, and you get exactly what the founders were afraid of: a minimization of freedom, a diminishment of our freedom. And your example that you just used with these florists is a small but an important example of that. You know?
And go ahead, Professor. Well, the example, and this is what gets to the fact of power, that it's all about power. The rhetoric's going to be there, the arguments, the tactics are going to be there. It's if we empower the federal government enough through our apathy over the last 40 years plus, or I would say arguably longer than that, obviously, that it grows and steps outside the constitutional bounds. Because then the rhetoric becomes reality for us, and what you've just described is we will have oppression, in essence.
Absolutely. There's a phrase that crops up all throughout the writings of the founders and throughout the whole period. Power is of an encroaching nature. Power always wants to maximize itself and grow greater and extend its reach. And that's what we've seen with the federal government over the last, going on a century now. And everything that we're talking about domestically, from Obamacare to the gay marriage issue to abortion, any issue you want to see, what you see as the tentacles of the federal government extending into regions, social life, private life, etc., that they have no business into, and that the founders did not want them to have any business into. And so, bit by bit, our freedom is being diminished and being chipped away.
Well said, and I always want more time. That's why I call Bruce after. He doesn't take my call because I call him all weekend. Can we talk some more? We're not on air, but I just want to talk. That's how great he is. Dr. Bruce Thornton, Hoover Institution's research fellow. Bruce Thornton, thank you. AFR Talk, have a great weekend.